I'm going to go out on a limb and say that the majority of us here were enrolled in some sort of sport growing up. Influenced by the country's history and progression, chances are your parents threw you into youth athletics. Whether or not it was a trial and error process, that childhood sport you grew up playing eventually developed into a passion. Now, I want everyone to take a second and place themselves back into their 6, 8, 12-year-old shoes. Think. How did my sport make me feel? How did I approach my sport? Was I happy? Stressed? Did I even know what stress was? Moving forward to today, I long for the carefree mentality I had growing up, when what mattered was the flavor of ice cream I chose or the time I got to spend watching the TV. I long for the ways I once approached soccer, applying that carefree mentality, unaware of the pressures that awaited me. When I was 3, my father enrolled me in AYSO. Having spent the first few years of my soccer career with the organization, it holds some of my fondest childhood memories. The orange peels scattered across the field, the boxes of Chewy granola bar and Capri Sun juice pouches ripped open by my teammates as we sprinted across the field for our first quarter break. By the age of 8, I left the childhood magic of AYSO behind and transitioned to Team Evanston in hopes of furthering my athletic career. I spent years with the club, and while faced with an increase in stress evolving around the sport, soccer remained my passion, my life. Moving forward, 2 years ago, I changed team yet again in hopes of progressing athletically. Joining FC United Academy, I was playing at the highest youth level in the country, traveling out of state every other weekend for a game on a team ranked 13th in the nation. Becoming a character in Groundhog Day, I was trapped within a never-ending cycle. Alarm clock blaring at 5 a.m., telling me to get my before-school training session or lift in, only to find myself with the cleats back on later that night for club practice. The anxiety of soccer stretched beyond my time spent on the field. I constantly found myself stressing about performance, critiquing, and experiencing a never-ending guilt that I wasn't trying enough, wasn't outworking my competition. I became consumed by the voices telling me I wasn't good enough. Unable to think of anything other than soccer, my self-worth was based entirely on my athletic performance. Now, it wasn't the practices or the lifts that led to my poor relationship with the sport. I still loved soccer, the dedication. Soccer was and is still a passion of mine. Rather, it was the approach I chose to take. The mentality I felt obligated to pursue that led to the burnout I experienced. My father has played soccer his entire life. Sharing the passion, he remained by my side throughout my athletic career. From coaching me in AYSO to 7-hour car rides for a weekend game, he was given a clear view of both the positive and negative impact soccer has had on my life. In an interview about his own experience with the sport, my father stated, "Soccer was always a game. Enjoyment. It was intoxicating wanting to play all the time. It was my therapy for joy and relaxing. I never felt the pressure of competition." In comparing his own experiences to mine, my father questioned what caused our significantly different approaches to the sport. While my approach is tied to who I am as a person, it is also rooted heavily on a shift in society's overall approach towards youth athletics. A change that drastically impacts both the mental and physical health of athletes, leading to depression, higher stress levels, low self-esteem, burnout, and injury. The United States Consumer Product Safety Commission reported in 2003 that 3.5 million kids under the age of 15 were treated for sports-related injuries. That number represents more than 4 times the number of injuries reported in 1995. By treating youth athletes as professionals and placing overall higher expectations on performance, they overwork themselves, pushing past both mental and physical pain. At Children's Hospital Boston, 60% of patients are victims of overuse injuries, in comparison to just 10% 25 years ago. Having personally experienced an overuse injury that has kept me off the soccer field for over the past year, the athlete mentality of pushing past the pain, constantly grinding out of obligation, hits close to home. The country has turned youth sports into a business, becoming a $17 billion industry, which is greater than the MLB and $15 billion NFL. Clearly, the country has chosen to prioritize its financial desires, leaving today's youth to pay the price. To understand what has helped create this business, let's take a look back in time. In 1852, schools made attendance necessary. This led to sports participation both before and after school. Cities started athletic leagues in 1903, and this too furthered the sports participation within schools. By the 1930s, pay-to-play sports began to grow in popularity in a response to the Great Depression, as publicly financed sports suffered. This approach flourished for the next 30 years. Title IX was passed in 1972, which gave girls the opportunity to participate in athletics, significantly increasing the overall participation. Now, while these dates contributed to the growth and popularity of sports within this country, the most important date to note would be 1950, when athletic college scholarships became available. By the 1970s, society realized the impact of these scholarships, learning that good grades simply are not enough to get into college financially. This led both students as well as parents to place pressure on athletic performance. Over time, this high-stakes approach progressed and became normalized. With a combination of students aspiring to get into a D1 program alongside coaches whose livelihood is dependent on their athletes' performance, the 5-year-old's passion has become lost between what is done out of love and out of obligation, leaving an athlete to go through the motions, overwork themselves, and burn out without hesitation, not knowing how or when to take a step back. Now, I want everyone to take a second and bring back the sports, the passions you all thought about only a few moments ago. If your approach has shifted, I want you to think about why, how, when. If you still pursue your passion, your sport, I want you to do something foreign for us athletes. I want you to take a step back. Think. Who am I playing for? What motivates me to get on that field, that court? Who am I thinking about when I put on my uniform for a game? If the answer to any of those questions is anything other than that little 5-year-old, faced bright red and smiling as they ran to their parents after a match, you too have paid the price of today's society. While the world will not change, a new normal that will likely only progress, it is up to you to change your own mentality. It is up to you to go play for no one else but you. Play because it is what you love, your passion, your life. Not to get into a school or to perform to please others and meet the expectations placed. At the end of the day, it is nothing more than a game. And games are meant to be played. Thank you.